Hello to everyone tuning in around the world and to all at the conference in Munich. As a German speaker and as someone who studied in the country, in Munich actually, I'm especially sad not to address you in person. But to make up for it, I am beginning with one of the greatest ever Germans, Beethoven. His Pastoral Symphony, which you can hear now, was inspired by his walks in the countryside. It is a fitting way to begin today's speech on the connection between human health and planetary health. For the symphony is testament to the depth of that connection. To listen to it is to hear how humanity is enhanced aesthetically and perhaps even morally by nature. Today, however, I want to talk about a different kind of connection between nature and man. I want to talk about how human health literally depends on the health of the planet. Because it does, much more than many realize. Zoonotic pandemics, the scourge of malaria, antibiotic-resistant bugs, lurking at the root of many global health challenges is our treatment or mistreatment of nature. And conversely, behind many environmental challenges, grave health crises lie in wait. Our success and survival as a species demands that we build a healthier planet. That is the long-term challenge handed down, however unfairly, by previous generations to yours. But in the near term, the link between planetary and human health requires us to act. We need to adapt. We need to be more resilient. The COVID-19 pandemic showed the heavy cost of being caught unawares in an era of planetary sickness. We can no longer afford to react to crises after they have happened. Swine flu, avian flu, Ebola, and hundreds of other diseases are spread by humans living in close quarters with wild or domesticated animals. As urban space engulfs natural habitats, humans encounter new pathogens. The numbers describe a clear pattern. The risk from diseases increase with the rate of habitat destruction. The connection between planetary health and human health is also made frighteningly apparent by climate change. No country, rich or poor, is immune from the health effects of global warming. No country. Take, for example, the vector-borne diseases spread by ticks, mosquitoes, and fleas. Malaria, dengue, Zika. Long before COVID, MERS and SARS, health professionals struggled to contain the global spread of these deadly bugs, a spread accelerated by climate change. Rising temperatures and floods mean more habitats for water-breeding, heat-loving creatures to thrive. Thus, the Brazilian Zika outbreak in 2015 was not just a tragedy, it was also a warning that had flashing lights play up again when it reappeared in Florida a few years ago. For half a century, Zika circulated in Asia and Africa. And then in 2015, a warm summer spread mosquito carriers to South America. Even when no diseases or pathogens are at play, the health effects of climate change are disastrous. Extreme heat and water shortages bring sickness and death on an enormous scale. Between 2000 and 2016, the number exposed to heat waves increased by 125 million. Extreme heat recently left a trail of death in, of all places, Canada. The heat dome above British Columbia was called a freak weather event. If trends continue, such events will cease to be so freakish. An unhealthy planet is not just too dry, it is also too wet. All over the world, from India to the US to the UK, flooding has increased. Each year, the problem grows. The more we examine the collision of humanity and nature, the more we are faced with a daunting truth that the noble effort to preserve human health is fatally undermined by the neglect of planetary health. To help ourselves, we must tend to the wounds of a sick planet. That is a formidable challenge for all of us, but especially for you, the leaders of tomorrow. The good news is that recent experience contains useful lessons. Generational crises shape societies. In the 20th century, the horrors of war ushered in a golden era of multilateralism. The pandemic will be a defining event for all who endured it. None of us will forget the year that everything stopped. But it is especially important for those like you who witnessed it while their worldview is still forming. The first lesson I hope you take away concerns cities. In recent years, urbanization has accelerated out of control. It is happening much too quickly and so chaotically in many parts of the world that urban planners and public officials simply cannot keep up. As people and wealth amass in cities, so does risk. Risk from zoonotic disease, of course, but also the risk from natural disasters. By 2050, urban populations exposed to cyclones will increase from 310 million to 680 million. Those exposed to a major earthquake will increase from 370 million to 870 million. The pandemic can mark the beginning of a new era of urbanization. An optimistic vision, perhaps, but there is precedent. In the 19th century, cholera led to the introduction of modern urban sanitation systems. Throughout history, urban planning has been shaped by health concerns. Outbreaks of respiratory disease brought improved housing regulations in Europe during the Industrial Revolution. After the pandemic, we need cities to evolve alongside nature and not collide with it. The mental and physical health of humanity depends on it. The mental and physical health of humanity brings me to my second lesson, the importance of communities, the importance of connection. The Lancet said community participation has been a vital part of the response to COVID. From lockdown compliance to mass volunteering, the story the pandemic has been one of community. All over the world, highly local mutual aid groups sprung up, with citizens helping one another. Simple things like checking in on the elderly during lockdowns and delivering food to the isolated became commonplace. The community spirit of the pandemic, if it endures, will help us build that safety net. It will help us build that net that will help us translate this into a healthier planet. So the first lesson of the pandemic is how we live together in the cities we are in how these urban centers are planned. The second lesson of the pandemic is how we connect with each other, the communities that we have, and how we ensure we build this safety net that will take us forward. But while a sense of community can help us build a healthier planet, we also need to take responsibility as individuals, not just as a collective. This is the third lesson that I hope you, the leaders of tomorrow, take away from recent experience. To build a healthier planet, each of us needs to be disciplined and mindful in the choices we make. We must realize that small acts ripple out into the world and they have big effects. More responsibility means changing quite fundamentally our approach to global and human health. We need a paradigm shift from mitigation to prevention. That means getting better at using non-pharmaceutical interventions like mask wearing and hand washing. It means ensuring better standards of animal husbandry to prevent disease transmission. And it means taking individual responsibility for the health of our fellow citizens. A society versant in prevention is made up of people who take hygiene seriously and understand the threat of infectious disease. It also consists of people who understand the power they wield as consumers. Through our buying decisions, we can support companies who help planetary health and punish ones that don't. The fate of our own health and that of the planet comes down to choices made by individuals. All of us, all of you, each one of you can make a real difference. But it is not fair for my generation to pin all our hopes on the next. We are counting on you, of course, but we must play our part as well. And I am more hopeful than ever that we will. Why? Because it is in our interest to do so. It is in our collective interest to do so. It is in our individual interest to do so. The pandemic showed that everyone has a stake in a healthier planet. That much is clear. Now, we just have to go out and build it. For a year and a half, this world has endured a historic trauma. Every one of us has been through a lot, but few have felt it more keenly than the young, for whom life and education has been disrupted relentlessly. But I am hopeful that within this difficult period are clues to a better world. It is your job to find them. It is your job to bring them to bear in your own leadership. For if you do, the natural beauty that inspired Beethoven and his Ode to Joy will continue to inspire great art for many centuries to come. And even more importantly, a healthy and successful humanity will be there to enjoy it. And even more importantly, it will help us create the Elysium that he mentioned in the afterlife, but bring it into the world that we live in today. Thank you